This video should help you to write a report using proper APA format. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to do is to set up your paper. And as with an essay, the setting up of the paper takes a little bit of time and it's a little bit finicky, but once you get used to it, it'll become second nature. So let's start with the header. So double click at the top of the page so that you get into the header, and as you can see, my header looks different than it does in an APA essay. The difference here is that we want everything to be right justified. So go into header and you're going to select any of the options that allows you to have the title and the page number on the same page, or on the same line, sorry. So I have to go down. You see, this one has it on the same line, but that's left justified. This one has it on the same line, but there's two lines, and that's not what we want either. This one, again, we're not looking for something like that. We don't want this separated out, so we have to keep coming down until we find one, and here it is right here. On mine, it's called motion. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and I've got the title of the report here. Now this is what it's going to look like on the odd pages. On the even pages, it will look like this. Okay, so now I've chosen my option here. Come back here, and in this section here, you're just going to put the title of the report. And again, this is different from an essay because here it is not all caps. It's just regular title caps, okay? And also make sure that if you've got a long title that you shorten it so that it aesthetically, it's just sort of in this corner. It shouldn't come out to any further than about here. Okay, so that one's pretty easy. We don't have to do anything else. The page numbers are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the front page and all the subsequent pages are going to be the same. So we're done with headers. Click into the body. You're going to start here and you are going to hit the enter key 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to put all of this next part in the middle. Okay, so put the center on. At the same time, you will want to change the font size to 12, and you are also going to want to change, hang on, I gotta find it. You're going to want to change the line spacing to double space. Okay, so you are going to have font size 12, centered, line spacing double. Okay, so then again, you're going to write the title of your report. Make it an interesting title. Okay, but again, you do not need to use all caps. You're going to do this in just regular title caps. I would prefer that this part be bolded. It says in the official things not to, but I find that if you don't bold it, it doesn't stand out enough that it makes an impact. Underneath, your full name and student number. Start getting used to putting your student number on everything. And hit the enter key, and then you're going to put in the name of your school. Then you are going to hit the enter key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You're going to put in the title of the course and the course number. So in our case, it might be Canadian History 30F, and then in brackets, section 21, or Geography 20F, and then in brackets, section 19. Okay. Then you hit the enter key. You put in the name of the teacher. As per usual, make sure you've got the spelling correct. And then one last entry, and you are going to put in the due date. You'll notice I don't have the word count on here because the word count doesn't matter as much here as it does on an essay. So you now have your title page for your report all set. Let's carry on. Page 2. You'll notice that the header is already done. We don't need to worry about this. Here, what I'd like you to do is put in the word overview. Oh, I should have said something else. Sorry. When you're here, don't just hit the enter key until you get onto here. Instead, go to insert page break and put this on a new page. That way, no matter what you do here, this will stay in place. Okay, sorry about that. Now, with the overview, okay, just put for now, just put in this word and then hit the enter key, and I want you to put in a page break. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Let me just undo that one. I want you to hit page break, and I'm going to come back to this part and I'll explain all of this at the end, because this is the part, even though it's the first thing in the report, it's the last thing that you write. So instead, we're going to go to our page 3. Here, you're going to put in the title of the report again. I know, we keep doing this. Make sure at this point that when you come back from here, that you go, hang on, I'm going to put it into here. When you're here, you're going to be centered. But when you bring it down to the next line, you want to, when you bring it down to the next line, you want to make sure that you are left justified. At this point, I'd also like you to drop down the paragraph, and I want you to go into special and first line. Okay, because again, just as we talked about for the essays, we are not going to leave huge spaces between paragraphs. Therefore, we need to have a visual break that tells us that a new paragraph has begun. Therefore, the first line of every new paragraph should be indented. Okay, so now what do we do with this first part? Well, this first part is the introduction. And this is the only part that will not need a header. Okay, so this first paragraph or first paragraphs do not need a heading because it is the introduction. Here you will introduce us to your topic by telling us what the question is that you're trying to answer, or tell the reader why the report is being written. Here, if you're defining any terms or placing parameters around the scope of the report, this is where you say that. Now, what do I mean about putting parameters around the scope? If, for example, you're writing about the life of the men in the trenches of World War I, but you're only dealing with their day-to-day activities and not the actual fighting that they go through, then that's what you say. Okay? Finally, you need to tell the reader how you are going to arrange the report. Is it done chronologically? Is it in order of importance? Is it like in the case of this particular one, would it be like this is what they would do first thing in the morning, and then. Okay, so now we're going to get to our first header. So this is our first subtopic. So it might be daily military drills. Okay, so here you're going to introduce the subtopic, tell us the details that you discovered in your research. You have to make sure to use in-text citations. Do this. It is important. Use proper formal grammar. Okay, do not use colloquialisms. Do not use slang terms. Even, and as you get higher into education, contractions like should've and can't should not be used. Okay, this is not the place for your opinion. This is just facts. Okay, discussion will come later. All right, and then as we go through our subsequent heading or headers are all the same. Okay, so again, you would have the header in the center, and then the next line, you would have the indent. So you're going to do the same thing here, just with different topics. So where this one might have been daily military drills, this one might be ways they entertain themselves, or it might be about trench art, or whatever else you're going to be putting in there. So you've got facts, 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 facts. After you're finished with all of the facts part, now is the time for your discussion. Okay, so in the discussion, and again, you've got your subheading or your heading here, pardon me, and this is where you can put down your own understanding. So what conclusions can you draw? What opinions do you have? The discussion section can only deal with topics that you have already talked about in the report. Don't bring new stuff into here. So again, I'm going to use the example about life in the trenches. So this is where you might discuss how difficult you think it might have been for the artists to have found materials for their craft. Writers, how difficult would it have been for them to find paper? How difficult would it have been for people who were singers to keep their voices in the amidst all the gas? Things like that. Okay, so not just about the artists, but how difficult might it have been for the men who were not quite used to a military way of doing things? How did they respond, or how do you think they would have responded to all the drills that they had to do? So this is a really good place for you to show your empathy and understanding of the men in this particular story. In any other topic that you're writing a report on, this is where your discussion would come about the information that you had found. So you've got facts, facts, facts up here, and here is where you have your discussion. If you've drawn any conclusions based on your research, this is where you put it. Okay? The last part of the report itself is the conclusion. So just as with an essay, the conclusion is the place for you to draw together all the main points of the report. You can also highlight any relevant conclusions you've come to in the discussion portion. So if you came to a conclusion in here, here's another good place for you to highlight it, but just briefly. Additionally, and this is where it's different from an essay, if you have a recommendation for the future, now not so appropriate for the example I've been giving, but say you've been doing a report on environmental issues or water pollution. So here would be a good place for you to give recommendations for what you can do to reduce water pollution in the future. So here is a really good place for that. All right. The last part that you need is your references. And this is done exactly the same way as your essay. So you have to create your references using proper APA format. And remember that every online reference has to have an author, a date, a title, a publisher, the date you accessed it, and the URL. Please remember also that to format the references using hanging indent, remember to do that, all you've got to do is come over here under special and you'd go hanging, okay? So hanging indent, and then you organize them in alphabetical order by author's last name, all right? So that should give you a really good standard outline for how to write any report. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please send me a message on our Edsby, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Thanks for listening.